came here chasing a better life too, huh? The so-called land of opportunity. Liberty City. Skyscrapers, suits, dirty money, and broken dreams. Everyone's got a story here, but most don't end well. Still, you keep pushing. Because maybe, just maybe, there's something waiting at the end of the grind. A little peace, a little rest. Well, I've got something for you. Give me your ears for a while, and I'll give you quiet. No noise, no pressure, no past, just you. And the sound of the city fading away. Liberty City never sleep, but you will.
The fog rolls heavy off the broker coastline, slicking asphalt and swallowing headlights whole as they curl through Hove Beach. It's 3:27 a.m. The city that never sleeps isn't quite awake. Either it's somewhere in between, twitching in its dreams. Tyrone T-Bone Vasquez sits in a Crown Vic, held together by prayers and duct tape. He's watching a pawn shop across the street, lights still buzzing behind barred windows. A man in a leather coat arguing with his reflection in the display glass. The deal's supposed to go down any minute. Diamond bracelet lifted from a midtown penthouse, smuggled out through a corrupt valet, and now on its way to get valued. Offshore IDs in the last 60 seconds of a conversation between a deputy mayor and someone whose name gets redacted in every memo from Albany. T-Bone's job is to intercept the middleman before it becomes evidence, or worse, bait. The door jingles. Leathercoat exits. T-Bone lights up the engine and rolls slow behind him, blending into the mist. The man cuts down an alley off Mohawk. Avi right near the deli with the bulletproof glass and the pigeon nest in the awning. T-Bone parks, slips out. No jacket, just nerve. Footsteps crunch in the slush. Then dash movement. A figure steps from behind a dumpster. Not leather coat. Smaller, quieter. And faster. The exchange is brief. A flash of metal. A hissed threat. A body hits concrete. T-Bone darts forward. The kid turns a teenage runner. No more than 17. Eyes wired and wild. Who you working for? T-Bone growls. The kid just laughs. This city don't belong to nobody, old man. We all just borrowing it. Then he bolts, gone like he was never there. T-Bone checks the body. Leather coat's alive barely in his jacket pocket. The bracelet wrapped in a velvet pouch. Mission complete, but something nags at him as he gets back behind the wheel. This was too easy, too public. One complete let liberty devour itself. T-Bone slumps in his seat. The heist wasn't the story. It was the prologue, and somewhere in the grids and gutters of Liberty City, a war is already starting, not with bullets, but with truth. If you're down, I'll keep it rolling from here. Liberty's full of ghosts and secrets just, say the W-O-R-D. T-Bone kills the ignition under the fog-like glow of South Bohan and steps out into a city half awake, half asleep. He's heading for an old textile mill off Neva Street where Chloe's holding court in the back room of a dive called The Spool. Doors covered in pasted concert flyers. Inside, the smell of stale beer and solder smoke. Chloe's eyes catch his from the shadowed corner, like rain on a window pane. Got the drive decrypted, she says, without pausing. Deputy Mayor Sandoval's voice, clear as day, authorizing black budget tunnels under Staunton Island, emergency powers for FIB units, secret wire transfers, to offshore shell course money for no-bid contracts. And that kid, he's on payroll too. Paid to make sure the bracelet gets delivered so evidence can vanish. T-Bone steps closer. So they planned to use the pawn shop drop as a distraction. He rubs the stubble on his jaw. What's our play? Chloe swivels her chair, fingers flying. We leak it live. I've got a contact at Liberty City Independent Radio Spitfire Jenkins. He'll run the tape at 6. But you need more than audio. We need a body on the ground to hand off a flash thumb to his mobile post. T-Bone nods. He thinks of Maria Cromvega, the city bus conductor with a side hustle smuggling Prince of Corruption posters across Portland. She's got the city's pulse coming through her windows every day. He taps Chloe's screen. Call her in. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. An hour later, T-Bone and Chrome meet under the neon haze of Hove Beach Avenue. She's leaning against a shuttle bus, reflective vest still on her braid, catching every flicker of passing tail lamps. You sure this won't get us killed? She asks, voice low. T-Bone glances at the darkened rows of corporate condos beyond the boardwalk. Truth's always risky, but silence costs lives. They slip into the mill, Chrome carrying a weathered messenger bag. Chloe loads the flash thumb into a secure phone, encrypts the audio and the scanned transcripts. All set, Chloe whispers. T-Bone pockets the phone. I'll meet Jenkins at the East Steinway Plaza by 5:30. After that, it's a free-for-all press. Won't know where to point cameras first. They exchange a hard look, then split. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. By late afternoon, Liberty's skyline is cut in half by a bruised sun that won't break free from gray clouds. T-Bone threads through Chinatown's narrow alleys, missing the smell of dim sum carts for the metallic temps of fear. He arrives at East Steinway Plaza, cracked pavement, wilted planters, a scattering of food trucks. Jenkins' mobile broadcast van, decked in graffiti-spattered steel, is idling by a vendor selling knockoff sneakers. He slides into the passenger seat. Jenkins lifts his headset. T-Bone, you look like hell. He flicks a switch and a low bass hum fills the cab, ready to wake the city. T-Bone hands over the phone. Play it. Asterisk, asterisk. The broadcast cuts in across LCIR's dozen frequencies, spills onto callers' apps. Live now, Deputy Mayor Sandoval. Clear in 10 Liberty City under Marshall tunnels. No oversight. All funds rerouted to private security. Plus fib, insiders, and shell cores kids used as untraceable mules. Across the city, crackles ride through sparks beneath subway grates. Office clerks leak into sidewalks. Drivers pause at intersections. Street sweepers stop their brooms mid-sweep. Digital billboards flicker as thousands of phones light up with pop-up alerts. At City Hall, cameras spin toward the mayor's office. At Fib HQ, analysts drop coffee mugs in shock. Asterisk, asterisk. By dusk, Liberty City's heart is pounding. Murmurs rise in bars from Dukes to Algonquin. Neighborhood blogs flood with uploads. Photos of the mill, Chloe's command center, Chrome's transit routes. Protesters gather at Broker Bridge, chanting for a grand jury. City council members tweet resignations. FIB vans roll to cover fences, but nowhere near fast enough to extinguish the blaze of outrage. In the mill's back room, T-Bone, Chloe, and Chrome watch the news loop on the monitor's official denials crashing into the invites for town hall meetings, the city's architecture fracturing into crisis. They share a tired grin. Chloe leans back. We just started a revolution with a pawn shop bracelet. T-Bone exhales. This ain't the end of the war, but it's the first real battle. Won. And somewhere, under the glow of brokers' street lamps and the hum of restless traffic, Liberty City wakes, no longer a map drawn by the powerful, but a living pulse, driven by the people who refuse to stay silent. Dawn comes heavy with sirens and shouted slogans. I slip out of the back room at the Spool. Chloe already gone, probably meeting someone in Chinatown. Chrome's waiting in the alley. Old bus keys jingling. Mayor resigned, she says, voice flat. Interim council's calling an emergency session at City Hall. FIB's rolling out armored walkers in Broker Bridge. I nod. And the tunnels. She taps her phone. A live map of steam vents beneath Staunton Island dread blips where the FIB's sealed emergency shafts, trying to bury this before it spreads to Dukes and Algonquin. We head to South Bohan to the safe house under the expressway. Inside, Chloe's got screens patched into every subway cam she could hijack overnight. They traced the live drop to me, she says. If they track the mesh nodes next, her voice trails off. We move fast. Chrome holes the original bracelet microdrive, the flash thumb with Sandoval's confession, and the transcripts. I pack them into a reinforced courier, backlined with foil, disguised as a portable speaker. Spitfire Jenkins already got calls for follow-ups, but I need a vault that even FIB's Black Ops can't touch. Goliath Station on Liberty Harbor, a disused shipping silo-turned dart space run by ex-dock workers. It's outside the FIB's direct jurisdiction, and the crews there owe Chrome to many favors. By midday, we roll past the crumbling piers. Wind whipping salt through broken windows. Dock rats peek from container stacks, nod as we pass. In the Goliath courtyard, 200 people already encamped, posting clips of Sandoval's tape on steel columns. An oxygen of defiance. Chloe steps to the mic of a makeshift PA. We're here to guard truth, she announces. Tablets, phones, even a few old laptops flicker to life, syncing our files between songs and speeches. I slip into the network. Chloe patched me through a neighbor node and abandoned camera on the Brooklyn Chanstead subway. From there, I pivot to FIB's leak tracker mid-shift. They're hunting the mesh, but their server logs still exposed a backdoor, a dormant link to the sealed tunnel cameras. I reroute it straight into our mesh. Now, on every street corner from Northwood to Hove Beach, you can dial up a live feed of the FIB's secure shafts, workers welding shut vents, black ops in gas masks, armored walkers backing over manhole. Covers dot when the first screenshot hits this morning's front pages. FIB seals emergency shafts public endangered. The backlash is immediate. Activists march on the piers. Labor unions call for a general strike. Even tabloids, those vultures run exposes on Albany cronies. But the FIB fights back. By evening, armored drones hover above the Goliath silo, scanning for unauthorized signals. The speakers crackle. Disperse now, or be detained. We form a ring around the yard meet Chrome, Chloe, and a rotating guard of dock workers and bus drivers. We bury cable spools beneath benches. Chrome hands out modified transit badges that act as mesh boosters when you tap them together. Chloe keeps the streams alive with code that reroutes around each drone scan. I catch my breath beside the old crane and watch everyone connect. Students, grannies, graffiti artists, busboys all peering into screens that show them what the city officials tried to hide. And for the first time, Liberty City's heart isn't in its skyscrapers. It's in these crowds, in their shared eyes, in the data they guard dot at sunrise. The fib withdraws. A government statement blames technical interference for the precautionary closure. But nobody listens. They know the truth. Now it's up to City Hall to decide. Open a grand jury, demilitarize the tunnels, prosecute the Shell Corp ring. I lean against the shipping silo with Chrome and Chloe, watching trucks roll in food. Medical supplies, spare parts for our network. Someone's repurposed a hover drone to deliver hot coffee. Chloe grins. They wanted to bury us under tubes and lies. Instead, we built a cathedral of screens. Chrome lights a smoke. Welcome to Liberty City 2.0, where memories, the real currency. I nod to the rising sun, and this is just chapter 2, because the city won't sleep again, not while its people are awake, witnessing, and wired together, holding up its true face for all to see. Liberty City remembers now, and will be here to remind it every day what it's worth. The morning light finds us elbow deep in cables and coffee cups, the Goliath silo humming with the steady click of hard drives and the murmured prayers of a city refusing to be forgotten. Around us, volunteers swap out battery packs, solder new mesh nodes onto street lamp posts, and debug live feeds that carry every corner's truth into the collective feed. No ceremony, no speeches, just the low hum of work that matters more than any rally. Chrome crouches by the fence, rerouting a drone's GPS ping through a relay on an old shipping container. She grins when the feed pops back onto her tablet, showing the drone chasing phantom signals across empty lots. "They won't find this link," she says, voice triumphant. "By the time they trace us, we'll be 3 jumps ahead." Chloe moves through the crowd like a conductor. She taps her wrist pad, and the PA system flickers to life with a looped message. "If you see something, stream something. No ID required. Memory is collective property." The message pulses through phones, radios, even the broken speakers on neighborhood corners. Each ping is a reminder. We own our city's story now. I wander toward the edge of the compound, where a group of high school coders from Algonquin stare at a half-built relay box. They ask questions: how to encrypt data, how to spot tampered cables, how to keep their families safe when the fib comes knocking. I stay with them, showing line by line how to wrap a signal, how to mask a relay node in plain sight, even in a drone's infrared scan. Their eyes brighten, knowledge unlocked by mid-afternoon. Traffic's jammed at Broker Bridge. Drivers lean out windows, taking live snippets of fib officers fumbling with handheld scramblers. Some shout encouragement, others whistle. A street-side vendor hands out free bottled water stamped with our Tracer logo. No one knows who paid for it, but everyone's drinking from a safe distance. I watch a retired bus driver named Mr. Zhao guide a group of neighborhood seniors through a simple app that flags suspicious road closures or street lamp outages. His hands shake, but his voice is steady. This is how we protect each other. When he presses share, a swarm of relays flare green on the city grid map Chloe keeps feeding in real time. Night settles in, and the silo courtyard transforms into a living patchwork. Live feeds projected on rusted metal walls. Folks huddled under blankets, arguing over break times for the next wave of installs. Children practicing whispered chants, turn tech chants, memory safe, data free, never safe, data free, never. Back to tyranny. Somewhere in the thrum, I feel the city's breath ease, like it's finally recognized its own pulse. But the fight isn't over. Word comes in through a back channel. Albany's sending a task force to investigate unauthorized broadcasts. We know what that means. Drones with live feed cutters, squad cars with jamming fields, midnight visits to anyone with knowledge. So we plan the countermeasure. An off-grid backup that lives on borrowed cell towers, mesh nodes hidden inside community art murals, each one cutting a hole in the city's firewall. In a deserted warehouse near Hove Beach, Chrome is painting a mural of a phoenix rising from a digital circuit. Inside the wall, she's built a mesh router packed into a weatherproof box. At a nod, she swings a sledgehammer away. A brick slots the node in place and replasters the gap over with fresh cement. When someone tags it tomorrow, no one will see the line of code running behind the paint. Chloe uploads the last batch of encrypted coordinates. 200 200 new install points, 100 volunteer handles, 50 emergency exit links. She leans back, wiping soldering flux from her gloves. This network isn't just wires and signals, she says softly. It's every soul that said I remember. We all nod because she's right. I step out onto a rain-slicked street and call up the live grid on my phone. Each green dot is a promise kept, blocks that now record themselves, memories that can't be overwritten. Rumors of tear gas tests, mass arrests, and drone sweeps flare up in the news, but when a blackout hits, our mesh fills the gap. We aren't hiding. We're out in the open, anonymous yet unstoppable. On the night's last shift, we stand on a rooftop overlooking the city. The skyline shivers with neon and ambient hums every Southlight node, every secret mesh relay, every voice chipped into the grid. No titles, no hashtags, just the living pulse of a city that remembers. And as the rain settles into a steady drum, I realize that Liberty City's greatest firewall isn't steel or encryption, it's people wired together in trust. We step off the rooftop into the wet night, each of us carrying a piece of that promise, to keep the signal alive, to guard memory, to never let the city dream itself into silence again. And somewhere beneath the thunder, Liberty City breathes awake, listening and eternally on guard. The dawn after the rooftop vigil feels quieter than any morning we've known. No sirens, just the city waking to its own pulse. I walk the cracked sidewalk toward Southlight's main relay in Fortside, past shuttered bodegas and fresh murals that bloom overnight. Every paint stroke conceals a mesh node. Every mosaic tile hides a comlink. By the time I reach the corner, a handful of early risers has already gathered. Barbershop regulars reading data printouts over coffee. Street vendors scanning burrow feeds on pocket radios. A group of freelancers wiring solar panels to power our backup batteries. No one asks permission to be here. They're proud to belong. Chloe arrives, breath misting in the cool air, lugging a crate of donated laptops and flash drives. She nods through the crowd, then taps her wristpad to share. The overnight log, 24 new nodes came online in Dukes. In Bohan, a youth collective repurposed a broken payphone into an emergency call line. Even in Francis International freight crews scraped together hardware to patch the grid at the cargo docks. Each entry is a small revolution, proof that beneath the neon towers and the hollow promises of redevelopment, a living network breathes. By midday, the fib shows its hand. Black SUVs cut through the plaza, agents in steel vests scanning for unauthorized signals, but they find nothing but faces that once flinched at authority, now standing shoulder to shoulder, armed with encrypted phones and knowledge. A commander steps forward, voice amplified by a borrowed speaker. This so-called Southlight network is illegal. Disband or face charges. For a moment, the plaza stills. Then one of the bus drivers, an old friend named Malcolm, lifts his tablet and replies, "This network's not illegal. It's ours." He taps a live feed showing FIB patrols sealing a tunnel on Staunton Island, proof their own systems betray them. That evening, we convene in the old subway platforms beneath Steinway. Electric lamps flicker over concrete benches where we set out charts, code fragments, and printed affidavits from city council members now forced to acknowledge the mesh's legitimacy. Every community center, every place that once felt off limits, we draft a petition for official recognition, backed not by lobbyists but by millions of data-signed petitions collected through our network. The FIB's threat still hangs in the air, but it feels less like danger and more like a test. Night falls again, and I slip away to a quiet rooftop overlooking the bayou where rusted freighters rock in moonlight. I watch as each southlight node glows a constellation of memories, each dot a refusal to forget. The city's story is no longer written by those in power with budgets and deadlines. It's inscribed in living memory, in the hum of cables and the pulse of voices broadcast across boroughs. Somewhere in that soft electric glow, I sense a shift. This isn't just resistance. It's the dawn of a city that remembers itself. And while the journey ahead is fraught with politica, with the ever-present threat of silence eye, know one thing for sure. We'll meet it with open eyes, open minds, and a network that refuses to go dark the next morning. I wake to the hum of diesel generators and the low whistle of a commuter train passing overhead. The sky's bruised gray, veined with cables that carry our mesh signals. On the street, the world looks normal, kids waiting for school. Buses, paper boys, calling out headlines, the scent of hot pretzels drifting from a corner cart. But normal's broken now. Every lamppost holds a node. Every phone screen flickers with live feeds from places they swore they'd sealed off. I'd slip out of my apartment in Broker and head for the cathedral of steel and abandoned grain silo, turned community workshop where Lyra's building the next wave of hardware. Inside, she's elbow deep in circuit boards, soldering traces red as blood. Around her, volunteers pack ruggedized routers into pelican cases, stamped property of the people. A kid from Duke slides me a prototype, a tiny puck that sticks to any surface, onboard solar panel battery that lasts weeks. No wires, just slap it on a bus bench, a park bench, even the side of a slow-rolling garbage truck, and instant coverage. She looks up, gray curls stuck to her forehead. They're mobilizing a task force, she says. Drones, armored vans, the works. They're hunting relay points mid-shift. I nod, feeling that familiar rush at the back of my skull, the rush that means we're next on the map. Then, we move the grid. I say make it mobile. By afternoon, I've organized a convoy, decommissioned mail trucks, a handful of unmarked city service vans, and a flatbed with a makeshift cell tower generator strapped to the deck. Chrome drives the first mail truck, tinted windows glowing with interior LEDs to mask the silhouettes inside. Chloe rides shotgun in the lead van, wristpad in hand, feeding us new GPS drops every few blocks. A line of riders follows on bikes, each carrying extra modules, pucks, and micronodes to deploy as we go. We roll through East Bohan, across Staunton into Portland. At every stoplight, Chrome swings open a door, tosses modules onto street benches or abandoned newspaper racks. I'm on the flatbed, vaulting between boxes, handing gear to volunteers waiting in doorways. The whole crew moves like a well-drilled unit. No flash, no noise, just silent hands, planting seeds. By dusk, the mobile network has sprouted across 3 boroughs overnight, each node auto-configuring, pinging back to our control grid under the spool. We've gone off-grid untraceable, ghost immune. The FIB can shut down 1 node, but 10 more blossom in its place. Riot vans roll by, scanning with thermal cams. All they see is a street full of people, not our hardware. That night we gather on a fire escape near the Liberty Heights precinct, under construction. The half-finished concrete walls rise like a jail waiting to open. Chloe's live-streaming plans from inside City Hall, blueprints of data hubs hidden in the cellar, supply closets turned server farms. She's developed a digital sap, a worm that once seeded into their provisioning portal will export logs to every mesh node we control. I pass around C-notes taped to thumb drives. there for the dock workers' bounties to keep us supplied with scrap metal and fuel. Chrome distributes prepaid burner phones loaded with our offline navigation app. No SIM, no paper trail. A kid from Algonquin asks if it's safe. I pat his shoulder. Safe enough. If it ever feels too hot, you cut here. I point to a single wire looped around the phone's USB port, and you're back anonymous. At midnight, we move in. Van 1 breaches the perimeter on Foston Place. Van 2 rolls into the underground garage, looping their camera feeds. The mail trucks park by the service elevators. I ride the freight lift up to the data core level, avoiding the biometric readers by timing the door cycle with Chloe's hack. Chrome skirts patrolling guards in the corridor, dispatching them to the wrong floors. By the time the precinct's CCTV troubleshooters arrive, they're chasing ghosts. In the rack room, we unload Pelican cases and wheel in our own servers. Black matted boxers that look identical to their storage units only ours are preloaded with the sap. I cap a bottle of spray foam at the base of the cabinets to hold the cables in place. Chloe boots the worm on her laptop. Within seconds, the system hums as logs and live feeds begin funneling out through every mesh node in the network. We reverse the flow, streaming fib seal-off ops directly to neighborhood channels. Bus drivers and dukes watch the armored vans wreck street vendors. Stands, families in brokers see masked squads banging on doors they'll never open. At the command center, an FIB lieutenant slams his fist on the console, realizing the precinct they built to control us is now broadcasting its own dirty laundry in real time. We slip away before the sirens break. Chrome leaves a final signature, etched in the glass, an Ouroboros of cables feeding into a human heart. Chloe triggers the self-destruct flags on our planted module's remote deactivation so it looks like a system glitch rather than a takeover. I ride the flatbed back to Goliath Silo, watching the city flicker under streetlights, each pulse a reminder of what we've done. Asterisk in the dawn's pale glow. News hit every feed. FIB data precinct compromised evidence of unlawful surveillance exposed. The city's brewing a storm again. Marshes forming outside the mayor's new temporary office. Tweets erupting with calls for independent oversight. But more than that, people feel it in their bones. They watch their own neighbors rolling out. Networks, they read the leaked files. Think of all the faces on the ground. Bus drivers, barbers, busboys, software kids, pensioners, street artists. A city in the Roch, seeing to remember, choosing to witness. And as the sun lifts over Liberty's skyline, I know the fight will keep twisting outward, stronger with every new relay, every new voice logged, every new memory preserved. They can build tunnels, they can seal shafts, they can tighten laws, but a city that remembers can never be contained, and will be there in every hidden node, in every whispered broadcast, ensuring Liberty City never sleeps in, never forgets again. The network hums. I stand on a fire escape, overlooking Broker Bridge at daybreak. The skyline a jagged horizon of cranes and skyscrapers just waking to the fight. Below, pulse of traffic and snatches of protest chants drift up our city, our story, memory. Is power stop the tunnels? The mesh is live in every block now. Each node blinks with its own heartbeat. I trace a line on my palm like reading a map. Every light, every relay, every voice becomes part of a single city, grid too vast to silence, too alive to control. Somewhere in that web, T-Bone's tracking a new tip, hidden FIB citrips on drones monitoring water treatment plants. Chloe's already rewriting her SAP to intercept floods of chemical dosing logs. Chrome's prepping bus-mounted nodes for the next wave. Lyra's artists are painting 20-foot murals with, or street fighters. We're librarian warriors, archivists, in a city that forgot its own chapters. And as the sun breaks free of the haze, I watch a kid from Algonquin plant a puck node on a church fence as if lighting a candle. The church bells haven't rung in years, but his device hums, and I swear I can hear them told out. No titles, no credentials, just the collective memory breathing through the wires. And I know with every pulse, Liberty City isn't just awake, it's alive. The wind off the East River carries salt and the distant hum of container ships, but tonight it's electric with anticipation. Down in Chinatown, a crew of teenagers in hoodies swaps out street signs for scanner tags, each one a covert guide to the nearest mesh node. Across the bridge in Duke's, retired NYPD officers, now armed with bus passes, are patrolling routes, feeding live streams of suspicious convoys to our central feed. No one's calling this a revolution, it's too messy for slogans, but every move feels like a stitch in a tapestry that can't be torn. I slip through a back alley off Clinton Street. Beside a rust-patched phone booth, she's converted into a mic. Her eyes flick through 10 live feeds at once. Armored drones circling water treatment plants. Fib analysts furiously rerouting their satellite uplinks, and scanner chatter about an incoming task force from Albany. She taps a command, and the feeds glitch, freezing the drones in midair on everyone's screens for just long enough to buy us time. Chrome rides up on her extended bike, panniers heavy with micronodes and battery packs. She's smiling that crooked grin before the storm. They moved the command van to the old power substation in Red Hook, she says. Figures they'd try underground next. If they can seal us out there, they can choke the city's memory. We convene in an abandoned garment factory off Morgan Avenue. All of us gathered around a rusted metal table lit by a single work lamp. Lyra's got a half-built EMP jammer laid out next to a stack of transit schedules. T-bones poring over the substation blueprints uploaded last week by a whistleblower at Con Edison. The plan is brutal in its simplicity. We sneak into Red Hook, plant our jammers in the service shafts, then reroute the node signals to loop through the Brooklyn tunnels instead of the Manhattan backbone. Ghost the system into redundancy. By midnight, we're on foot beneath the substation's hulking transformers, boots echoing on oil-slick concrete. Chrome cracks the service door with a crowbar. Chloe ghosts the security cams with a portable scrambler. I follow T-Bone down a narrow walkway, wires and pipes overhead, until we reach the main distribution node. It's smaller than I imagined. A locked cabinet of relays and fuses, glowing with green LEDs like fireflies in a jar. We slide in our own modules, splice into the line, and set the jammer in the adjacent shaft. A low hum rises as our patch goes live. The FIB's efforts to seal us in backfire. Their isolation triggers our automatic reroute, and suddenly mesh signals bloom like wildflowers through the tunnels. On every screen in the city, the live map explodes with new green dots in Red Hook, Sunset Park, even Gravesend. They can torch one node, but 40 more pop up in its place. We slip out before the junkyard guards even realize what's happening. By dawn, the city's been drinking from every one of those dots. Subway platforms filled with whispers of our late-night heist. Trucks stalled at intersections as drivers check alerts for live drone sweeps. Windowsills lined with laptops showing the sealed tunnels in real time. A new rhythm pulses through the city. Grid unpredictable, unstoppable. Back on the rooftop where it all began, I watched the skyline shift in the pale light. No summit has been reached, no final victory claimed, but Liberty City has learned a new heartbeat, one that cannot be silenced by orders from above. We've built more than a network. We've forged a covenant that as long as these streets hold breath, as long as a single apartment light glows in the night, the city will remember itself, and so will we. The night's victory hums through the cables, but by dawn we can taste the backlash in the air. Brooklyn's ferry lines slow to a crawl when commuters catch wind of live feeds spilling, fib interrogations and forced evictions. In Queens, a dozen community gardens send up smoke signals, literal bonfires of data printouts, ashes drifting across the park. Everywhere, the city's waking to its own revolt. I meet the crew at an improvised safe house in Bushwick, a gutted townhouse wired with solar panels and second-hand generators. Chrome's already there, peeling open transit route maps plastered on plywood walls. She points to a cluster of shut-off zones. They're blacking out entire precincts around the FIB compound in Hunters Point. No power, no comes trying to starve the mesh. Her eyes are sharp under that red bandana. We need mobile relays on foot, on bikes, on the backs of hobo carts. No fixed hardware they can find. Chloe taps at her wristpad. I've got a patch for that micro-mesh clusters that auto-heal. They'll stitch through any dark zone, but we'll need thousands of units and rebarter them fast. She flips screens, coded donation addresses, hardware run lists, volunteer sign-ups flooding in from every borough. We got the people. We just need to equip them. T-Bone arrives last, work boots scuffed and belt loop full of scrap wires. He hauls in a handcart loaded with missile case Pelican boxers. Something arrived overnight, he says, sliding open a case to reveal hundreds of puck-sized nodes from the prototypes Lyra's team designed, enough to blanket every street corner in a 5-mile radius. Thought I'd test one. He flicks a switch, and a tiny orb of blue light pulses on the dusty floor. Mesh me if you can. By midday, we're splitting across the map. Nala leads. A squad of bike couriers through Bushwick's hollow warehouses, planting these pucks inside hollowed-out bollards and under cafe benches. Chrome organizes mini-workshops at corner laundromats, no ID pop-ups, teaching elderly neighbors how to tether these devices to solar chargers clipped to fire escapes. T-Bone escorts a ragtag convoy of drag racing Honda Civics and beat-up hatchbacks to the blackout zones in Long Island City, dropping kids at payphones and parks where they can't cut the fiber lines. Chloe stays at the hub, patching in every new node, rerouting the backbone to keep traffic flowing, even when the FIB hits them with rolling jammers late afternoon. The FIB strikes back. Drone swarms darken the sky over Hunters Point, scanning for heat signatures. Armored cars roll through Vernon Boulevard, lights strobing across graffiti-tagged walls. But where once they'd have found our stash houses, all they see now are empty storefronts and mannequins dressed in vintage t-shirts behind boarded windows. Our real grid lives inside everyday things: a broken newsstand, a ginger ale crate, the belly of a restaurant fryer. They can't bomb us out of existence. Still, the pressure mounts. Reports come in. A volunteer arrested in Mospeth nodes dismantled. On Roosevelt Island, a family intimidated in Red Hook. We hold a makeshift council at a shuttered movie theater in Greenpoint. Voices echoing in the empty seats. We debate escalation, arms-level hacks, data drops aimed straight at federal oversight. But Chloe reminds us this isn't about spectacle, it's about persistence. They can't kill what they can't trace, and they can't trace us if we keep moving. So we prepare the next phase, an Alborough synchrony. At 3 a.m. on Tuesday, every node will broadcast a single-file and hour-long loop of every fib order we've intercepted, layered with witness testimonies and unedited footage. It'll hit every device in the mesh at the same moment. Phones, laptops, connected speakers, even smart billboards, if we can hijack them. A tidal wave of truth no judge or censor can stop. In the hours before the drop, I ride the Q train from Roosevelt Island to Coney Island, slipping nodes under beach benches and lifeguard towers. I watch the sun sink behind the parachute jump, the neon sign flickering like a heartbeat. Logo and smiles when I nod. A fisherman nearby glances at his tablet, sees a pre-download notification for Operation Remember, and grins. At 2:59 a.m., the mesh hums in unison. Every blue dot pulses. On my phone, the countdown ticks 0. Then the files flood out across the city. Screens blink, speakers crackle, voices of the oppressed, directives of the powerful, data no filter, can bury Coney Island's Ferris wheel lights strobe to the rhythm. Teenage skaters in Bushwick stop mid-kickflip when their earbuds fill with testimony from a detained community organizer. A coffee truck in Bed-Stuy reboots its Bluetooth speaker to blast audio of a judge's secret hearing on tunnel seizures. Police scanners go haywire. City Hall's emergency lines overflow. FIB command posts try to isolate themselves and only manage to stream their own panic back into the mesh. At the heart of it all, the city doesn't riot. It listens, it debates, it mobilizes through forums, neighborhood assemblies, and ticker tape marches. An unprecedented civic assembly unfolds in real time. I stand on the boardwalk at midnight, the Atlantic wind in my face. Waves pound the pier. In the distance, the Brooklyn lighthouse beams out sync with the pulse of every mesh relay. I close my eyes and hear it, the city breathing as one. Then I crack a smile, knowing whatever comes next, we started something nobody will ever kill, because now Liberty City's memory isn't stored in vaults or buried in tunnels. It lives in its people live, awake, and forever on watch. The morning after Operation Remember cracks open like a fresh wound across Liberty City. I'm back at the bus depot in Dukes by sunrise, handing out espresso cups to bleary-eyed operators tapping away at their tablets. Every screen floods with footage from last night. FIB officers confessing undercut budgets, aldermen admitting vote for contract schemes, community leaders reading live witness statements. The city's public squares are empty. People opted for virtual assemblies, convening block by block in mess-run conference calls that streamed on every device. Chrome arrives in her mail truck, engine purring. She passes me a flash drive labeled Phase 2. It's plastic matte black and warm from her pocket. "This is for the apps," she says quietly. Up next, user interface so simple a 10-year-old can report a sealed tunnel or a burnt-out relay. Volunteers clutch those drives like lifelines. They'll sideload them tonight. No app store, no sign-in, no privacy invasion. Just one tap to join the grid by midday. Rumors swirl that FIB's task force is pulling back from hunters. Point there, regrouping under Albany orders. But we see their new play. Drone patrols shifting to Staten Island ferry lines. Random grid sweeps over the Narrows, and a blacklist of mesh nodes branded unauthorized transmissions. We anticipated this. Chloe reroutes any flagged channels through our hidden offshore satellings, the same ghosts we used to bust open the precinct. Now they serve as our redundancy, refusing every DMCA-style takedown notice. FIB throws at us. I slip into a cafe in Chinatown late afternoon to meet with Rashida, an investigative journalist from Liberty Press. She's compiling a dossier on last night's leaks. We pore over her notes, quotes from city council members forced to resign, contractors denied state funds, pipeline plans for new surveillance towers paused indefinitely. She looks up, eyes fierce. Your crew just rewrote the rule book, but the real war starts when they rewrite it back. I nod, then we keep rewriting faster. Word arrives that the black market rings between organized crime and rogue. FIB cells are scrambling to monetize the blackout zones. They offer device jammers for sale, phishing kits disguised as mesh app updates, even bounty hunters trolling bus depots for signal boosters. That means two things. They're desperate and they're on the hunt. Nala organizes self-defense workshops over secured group chat, street doctrine, and digital counterscans rolled into one. We teach folks how to spot fake firmware, how to detect a hunter recon drone before it locks on, and where to find safe houses if they're compromised. As dusk falls, I head to Sunset Park with T-Bone to inspect one of our newest nodes are converted. Newspaper kiosk lined with solar cells. The FIB just tried to raid it. The chassis shows fresh dents, but inside, our gear survived, and a local film collective's live stream kicks art installations into the grid. Dancers in hazmat suits, spoken word sessions from ex-officers who turned whistleblowers. Each performance is an act of defiance, streamed to every hatch in the mesh. We nod at each other. They hit one, T-Bone says, but they missed 100 more. He taps the cabinet, it hums. By midnight, the network has blossomed into a citywide organism. Every bus stop, every street lamp, every phone booth, even the rail-to-ferry walkway cameras connect. The FIB escalates. They deploy acoustic crowd control, fans in Bushwick, tear gas canisters near the subway portals. But instead of scattering, citizens reroute their gatherings to new nodes' playgrounds, laundromats, pop-up street markets all patched together by the mesh as movement-safe zones. Each time the FIB bombs one gathering, 3 more sprout somewhere else. On the roof of an East Steinway apartment building, Lyra monitors a real-time network health map. Red blips show isolated skirmishes with paramilitary squads. Green webs chart our mesh's resilience. She leans back, sipping chamomile tea. One more node hit in Mospeth, she says, voice calm, deploying 5 backups there now. I grin. That's how you win a citywide war, by embracing disruption. In the quiet hours before dawn, I ride a refurbished R32 GTR3. The Holland tunnel screens mounted in the passenger seat refresh with closed-circuit feeds from every borough. The FIB headquarters in downtown is a halo of strobe lights as crowds gather outside, urging officials to open a public inquiry. Union leaders join them, trade workers carrying placards that read "Our stories matter" and "No more ghost." Cities inside the tunnel's echo, I can hear the distant rumble of their chants. By the time I hit Jersey City, my phone buzzes. A fleet of commuter ferries is anchoring off Whitehall Terminal, pilots refusing to sail until passengers get full access to our mesh updates. Ferry workers applaud it as seafaring solidarity. At dawn, I return to the Goliath silo where it began. Chrome, Chloe, T-Bone, Laramie gather at the foot of a new South Lake post someone erected overnight on the pier, painted in silver. Graffiti, it reads, "Memory is the city's lifeblood." The sea breeze carries the faint whistle of a working mesh node hidden inside the concrete bollard. Around us, the harbor stretches a promise of new horizons, new chapters, no final victory, no wrap-up, Only the understanding that a city awoken to its own stories never surrenders. We're librarians and warriors both, guardians of a living archive. And as the sun cuts through the haze over the bay, we step into the morning knowing Liberty City's pulse belongs to its people and will be here on every corner, in every signal, keeping its memory alive. Dawn settles like a thin veil over the harbor, but the city's pulse won't rest. I step off the pier and thread through dock workers, stacking crates once stamped with tracer tags that double as mesh boosters. They nod as I pass. Their silent salute says more than any broadcast. Across the water, the skyline bleeds gold into glass towers, but our network leaks through every crack in the concrete grid. I slip into a locker room behind the freight terminal where Chloe's mid-shift. She's monitoring 3 emergent clusters. One in Stapleton, where transit graffiti artists converted an old billboard into a solar-powered hub. Another in Broome Hill, patched into a cafe as Wi-Fi that now streams community town hall meetings. The third on Governor's Island, where volunteers hijacked a shoreside terminal to relay feeds into Staten Island. She glances up there, deploying marine drones to cut underwater cables near Red Hook. Best guessed they want to choke our island links. I thumb my earpiece. We'll reroute. Outside, Chrome and T-Bone are calibrating a tugboat engine to power a floating node cluster. They've welded a scaffolding of battery modules onto the stern, complete with a retractable antenna mast that rises like a lighthouse beacon. Come twilight, they'll steer it into the Narrows, dropping buoys that create a gapless wireless bridge between Brooklyn and Statina's secret tether. No submarine patrol can find Dodd by midday. I convene a council under the subway arch at McCarran Park. Community leaders, union reps, bus drivers, artists, they crowd around folding chairs and hastily painted signboards. We don't need slides or manifests. Each face knows the stakes. We map out new safe zones, one in the High Line tunnels, another in Queensbridge underpass workshops, a third in East Harlem's laundromat network. Each site doubles as a hardware depot, and a digital civic center. Lyra stands at the chalk-scrawled wall, detailing the next software push, Mesh OS 3.1.7- automatic reconflict for any node going dark, plus a built-in witness app that lets you tag geolocked testimonies to specific street corners. She leaps into step-by-step, tap hold release, snapshot the GPS, speak your report, and it streams live to the nearest node. Make it as simple as taking a selfie, she urges. They practice on their phones until their thumbs blur. That afternoon, we test the system. Chrome pilots the tugboat out past Governor's Island as the sun dips low. The mast climbs, lights flicker green, and on my phone map I watch the floating cluster lock into place. Immediately, Red Hook's feeds return fishermen's radios, community garden webcams, dock road sensors. I tap the open chat channel. Echo check sound off, if you hear me. Replies cascade, loud and clear. Crystal, we see you, boss. Back on land, a restless energy ripples through the mesh. A hacktivist collective in Richmond Hill intercepts an EVRIB dispatch ordering the closure of every bus route connected to our nodes. They immediately live stream the transcript overlaid with time-coded maps. Commuters reroute themselves in real-time reroutement that no authority will devour their morning commute by nightfall. I patrol the loop streets, crisscrossing Lower Manhattan's tip. Neon kiosks broadcast civic art films, dancers in defunct subway tunnels, whistleblower interviews looping on digital billboards, 3D printed statues of anonymous community heroes lit from within by soft LED strips. Each installation is a node, each anomaly a reminder that the city's memory can't be gentrified away. Then a warning pings. The FIB has declared a humanitarian blackout zone in a swath from East Harlem down to Tribeca. Power crews and riot police staging cordons. They announce mandatory evacuations from unauthorized gatherings, but we anticipated this too. Chloe pushes a silent update. Each mesh phone now emits. Those volunteers organize, escort caravans of wheelchair users, seniors, mothers with strollers tagged as medical exemptions broadcast through the mesh. Authorities hesitate to confront them. The blockade falters, in the dead of night. I join Chrome and T-Bone at the Brooklyn Queens Connector underpass. We unload packs of pucks and tuck them into alcoves behind plywood panels, inside utility closets, even under traffic signal control boxes. Each placement silent, precise, almost invisible. The underpass hums with our presence like the spine of a silent revolution. At 2 a.m., a faint glow rises in the East River Channel. The tugboats' nodes come alive, a ribbon of green stretching across the water. Phones on both shores light up with dual-screen views, handing ferry passengers a glimpse of the network's backbone. They cheer into their cameras. I stand at the water's edge, wind shredding my hoodie into ribbons. Once muffled by corruption and fear, now thunders in every speaker, every screen, every whisper passed from neighbor to neighbor. Above me, the Brooklyn Bridge arches like a sentinel, each cable strung with data streams instead of wires. This is no grand finale, no final blow struck. It is the living pulse of a city that has reclaimed its own story, one node, one witness, one brave soul at a time. And as the tugboat's lights pulse through the dark water, I know we'll ride this wave until every voice in Liberty's sightin', matter how small, finds its amplifier, its record, its unerasable place in the map. We rally before dawn at the reclaimed trolley depot in Bush Terminal, our makeshift command node packed with solar panels, upspanks, and whiteboards scrawled in code and street names. Chrome tweaks the tugboat's antenna array from a remote console, extending its river-spanning bridge a few hundred feet deeper into the Narrows. T-Bone calibrates the substation for alternating current feed, ensuring the buoys stay powered through tide changes. Chloe patches in a mesh dial tone to flash the new broadcast schedule. Tonight at 0100, simultaneous node sync across all 5 boroughs. Audible alert will prompt all devices to upload citizen reports. Expect a 60-second window of unfiltered testimony. Lyra nods, overlaying the sync routine onto the Mesh OS updates, queued at every storefront kiosk. We'll call it Eclipse, she announces, because the city's voices will blot out their lies for a full minute. By nightfall, each district hums with preparation. In Red Hook, fishermen solder mesh patches inside lobster pots. In East Harlem, school teachers hold phone tutorials in dusty classrooms. In South Ferry, a volunteer choir rehearses protest chants that will stream on loop during eclipse poems and promises echoing across the grid. At 12:59 a.m., the city pauses. Horns stutter, streetlights dim, and hearts beat loud enough to hear. Then the audible alert floods every speaker and phone, a rising chime that crescendos into a hush. For 60 seconds, the mesh goes into record mode. Personal stories, testimonies, eyewitness accounts, captured live and broadcast to every node. From Bacali drug deals to boardroom betrayals, vows of love from East Flatbush to confessions from downtown insiders, no filter, no delay. As the chime fades, chaos blooms. People shout at screens, confront neighbors with truths unveiled, rally on stoops and street corners. The blackout zones pulse green again as our auto heal kicks in, patching torn signals with fresh nodes. Fire escapes become vigil posts. Crosswalks host flash mobs reciting testimonies dot by dawn. Liberty City has rewritten its morning headlines. Every newsstand blares Eclipse of Truth. Town hall summons pop up in mesh chats. Calls for public inquiry flood council chambers. Fib deploys tear gas in Long Island City. But the mesh live streams in mandatory dispersal orders echo across the feeds until they withdraw. At sunrise, we gather on the Brooklyn Promenade overlooking the Narrows. The tugboat drifts anchored at the water's edge, lights still glowing softly under the steel bridge. Chrome passes out mugs of hot chocolate. T-Bone, Chloe, Lyra, and I stand side by side, each tracing the horizon where city meets sea. No final victory, no end credits, just the hum of a network alive, its pulse in the hands of those who dare to remember. In Liberty City's story, Eclipse is but one chapter, 1 minute, when truth was unbound. The next pages we write every day, asterisk. And with that, I lace my boots, tuck new pucks into my coat, and step back into the waking city listening recording, never letting the story slip back into silence again. Dawn breaks gray over the Narrows, but the city's pulse is incandescent. I slip off the Brooklyn Promenade and weave through the early joggers and dog walkers, now scrolling through the morning's dubbed Eclipse archive. Every screen I pass loads fresh clips of last night's testimonies, workers burned out by unsafe plants, tenants evicted for luxury conversions, a retired teacher from Inwood recalling how the neighborhood library once burned down and was never rebuilt. Their voices hang in the air like a promise. I meet Chrome in Red Hook, where our tugboat has become a floating cafe by Diden's deck, now stacked with compost brew coffee and soldering irons. She hands me a to-go cup and a wrapped bundle, fresh mesh pucks pre-rounded in olive oil tins, each stamped with chapter next. We have 2 seed Staten Island's back half today, she says. They tried a patch ban at Tottenville Cup. Power lines jammed the West End. We need to bleed signals under that radar. We roll out in a pair of donation vans repainted by local street artists. One reads Truth in Transit. The other voices unlocked Chrome drives, humming a jazz riff through the speakers. I ride shotgun, scanning the city grid on my tablet, every node status lit in green or blinking red. Staten Island looks fragmented. Patches of dark where fib sweeps succeeded. Today, we stitch it back together. By mid-morning, we're climbing the narrow byways of Pleasant Plains and rolling past the abandoned asylum-turned-art collective. Painters and poets swarm our vans, filling queues for the new pucks. Chrome guides them through installation, peel the tin label, press the puck's magnetic base against the underside of a Tesla coil-shaped sculpture, and watch the small blue LED glow. That's your link to the rest of us, she tells them. Carry your story through this light while communities lay hardware. I slip away to the basement of the Tottenville Library, its windows still boarded, but inside the foyer turned into a data drop zone by a crew of volunteers. They've printed transcripts from Eclipse in Zine, forms stapled pamphlets bound in graffiti scraps and holographic tape. A kid named Marisol hands me one for tonight's reading. On the back, someone scrawled, asterisk, remember us, even when we can't speak. Asterisk, I head back to the tugboat as the tide turns. Chrome's at the helm, navigating the buoy clusters off Lighthouse Point. Each buoy now broadcasts for simultaneous channels, affinity groups, emergency alerts, open mic stages, and quietest of all the lost and found stream where families read names of loved ones lost to displacement. The network isn't just a grid, it's a loom, weaving desperation into solidarity. At dusk, I rendezvous with Chloe and T-Bone at the old car ferry slip in Midtown. Their faces glow from laptop screens showing City Hall's live stream council. Chambers now packed to capacity with citizens calling for the Public Memory Charter, a legally binding ordinance to protect every node, every dataset, and every testimony as part of the city's living archive. You can see it in the council members' faces, fear turning to resolve as they read petition after petition, each digitally signed through our mesh dot. But FIB isn't idle. A fleet of thermal drones buzzes overhead searching for heat signatures of hidden backup nodes. We feel the tremor of armored vans rolling into the financial district's alleys, so we initiate protocol shift. The network's kernels break free from static hardware and scatter across mobile devices. Every phone now becomes a micro-node. The mesh tunnels through Bluetooth, NFC beacons, even ultrasonic pulses hidden beneath restaurant ambient tracks. Every interaction, every tap, every handshake seeds a new link. By midnight, the city has become a living mesh organism dormant when it must be explosive when it hears a call. A group of late-night commuters on the N train watch as their earbuds whisper instructions for planting invisible nodes in subway tile grout. A graffiti crew in Bushwick uses fermented paint that conducts electricity, turning their murals into data-dense overlays. High school STEM clubs in Park Slope broadcast their solar charging plans over the network, so every streetlight can double as a booster on the rooftop of a converted grain silo in Long Island City. Lyra patches in the last update, a blockchain ledger that time stamps every testimony, permanent and unalterable. She calls it the city's sidecar, an appendage to official records, impossible for any authority to erase. The first block reads, Eclipse of Truth, followed by 60 seconds of raw audio from every neighborhood. The second, Staten Island Resurgent, mapping each puck we seeded today. The chain ripples outward, a digital spine for the city's unfolding story. We stand in a circle, hands on each other's shoulders, and watch the skylines glow, pulse in sync with our nodes. FIB drones flicker, only to be redirected into phantom loops. City Hall announces an emergency measure, recognizing the network's provisional legitimacy, pledging to harness citizen-led data for urban planning and social welfare. It's half concession, half goboption, but our eyes are on the bigger prize. Nobody can unhear the city now. When morning comes again, the harbor's still calm, the tugboat tethered where the flow is strongest. I step onto the deck and inhale. The temps of salt and solder cross the water. The Manhattan skyline stands as a silent witness. This is no finale. It's a crossroads where every voice finds its channel. Every silence is a challenge, and every memory stakes its claim on the city's future. We have become the custodians of liberty's story librarians in a metropolis built on forgetting. And as the dawn's first train rattles past, I know we'll keep writing each line, planting light in every dark corner, never letting Liberty City fold itself back into silence again. The dawn hush over the East River is the quietest sound I've ever heard, a soft, shared intake of breath that ripples across the city as our mesh pulses steady beneath every street. From the bus depots of Dukes to the waterfront workshops in Red Hook, every node hums with the weight of stories poured into it. Whispered confessions at midnight, children's poems about broken sidewalks, ex-convicts reading manifestos of redemption. I slip through these currents like a ghost in sneakers, feeling each vibration under my feet, knowing that every ounce of transmission means another corner of Liberty City refusing to be erased. In the underground squat at Bowery, a group of graffiti Poets have turned raw concrete into living hymns murals embedded with conductive paint that double as hidden routers. Tourists wander past, snapping photos of stained walls without ever realizing those same paintings are streaming real-time town hall debates to living rooms in Harlem. On the rooftop garden of a Sunset Park housing co-op, a circle of seniors pores over live-streamed blueprints for a new community bakery run entirely on reclaimed heat from the subway tunnels. Their laughter drifts down, mixing with the hum of our network like an unbreakable cord. By mid-morning, the newspapers, desperate for relevance, try to spin the mesh as an underground conspiracy, but nobody reads print anymore when their phones locked to the network. Instead, the city's pulse shows up in impulse assemblies on sidewalks, spontaneous repair brigades fixing collapsed curbs, volunteer medics streaming emergency alerts from one node to the next. I watch these blooms of action as I ride the L train from Coney Island back to the heart of Manhattan. Each station's turnstile now wrapped in QR codes, each platform a message board for block captains, coordinating resource drops for families displaced by the latest luxury conversion. My final stop is the abandoned vault beneath City Hall Park, where Chloe set up a permanent archive. Rows of servers hum behind ornate stone columns, storing every byte ever broadcast through our mesh. We step inside the silent cathedral of data together, me and Chloe and the core crew, Chrome still oil smudged from her tugboat runs, T-Bone with his ever-present duct-taped jacket, Lyra's eyes glowing under the server rack lights. We watch as new testimony flows in, a checkerboard of human voices, factory workers, poets, transit veterans each, file time-stamped, cryptographically sealed, impossible for any authority to delete without the crowd noticing. Chloe touches the glass of the main console and whispers, "This isn't just history, it's our covenant." I nod and think of every lonely voice we picked up, young mothers mapping out safe walks home, shopkeepers sharing encrypted logs of extortion, retirees reciting the names of neighbors long gone, all of them now living inside this digital cathedral, their echoes building a city wide enough to outlast every demolition permit and every threat of silencing. We stand there for a long moment, no fanfare, just the soft click of drives and the low murmur of cooling fans. Then Chrome reaches into her pocket and pulls out a battered notebook, handwritten maps of mesh nodes from the first week we lit up Bushwick. She flips to the last page where we'd scrawled in shaky pen, asterisk, if a single block remembers, no power can erase a city. Now those notes are a footnote in an ever-expanding ledger of resistance. Outside, the city rolls on, streetcars clatter, ferries cross the harbor, steam snakes through vent grates. But somewhere beneath it all, the mesh hums. Every upgrade, every patch, every new node is a promise kept that Liberty City, in all its fragmented beauty, will never again be silenced or forgotten. And as I step out into the morning light, I know our work doesn't end here. It only evolves into the next borough, the next city, the next era of citizens determined to guard their own stories. Because when a city remembers itself, nothing can ever make it sleep again.
Did you know we also have stories based on Vice City? Check out our channel to discover them. Now get out of here before I decide your wallet is worth more than our friendship.